So, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am your immune system. I am the indicators letting you know that so much is going on the horizon. And so many of you have been following some of my information. Others of you have finally figured out there's something going on and you will either follow my information, but it's not going to make a difference because you will either have what it takes to survive aggressive climate change or you don't. That's what it comes down to. And so, yeah, a lot of different fear campaigns all over the place, a lot of psychological operations. I've pretty much seen through all of them. And so it's now a matter of put up or shut up. It's a matter of when something happens between now and either October 11th, does your body have the infrastructure to handle it? And will you respond to disease in a different way or the same way? Because every time you treat disease, it'll put you even more behind the eight ball. Okay, so this last September was not as bad as it was last September. Now, I didn't treat last September's disease, but I also had residual shit from all the antibiotics and natural remedies the last 49 years of my life that I had to go through and release systematically. Now, my husband, he might have treated his disease last September with NyQuil. And so, but this time around, he's been home, but he's not feeling as bad as he did last year, which I think is not a bad thing. I've been protein loading him and myself when I've made those eggs and hamburger and cheeseburger and pork chops and potato latkes. It's feeding those little microbial babies, the offspring that have been replicating and developing within the last 3 years. And of course, how you treated your disease was going to tell you how much more diversity was going to be in your body. And you could have released those demons, fed your body, looked at my information in my book, maybe followed some of the directions if you could handle it. Maybe you could have bought yourself a few lifelines. And maybe you just ignored my information. Maybe you kept treating your disease. Maybe you kept mitigating food. Maybe you just didn't want to change anything. And so now we are in the day of reckoning, the month of reckoning. And so, we have so many different blood types out there, so many different lifestyles, belief systems, how far some people are really behind the eight ball. We don't know. I know that I've been feeling so many different things. I've been feeding the information, feeling the fatigue, the heart palpitations, and getting such awarenesses that I know that I, in my opinion, I could handle something aggressive. It may have already kicked off, whatever we think is going to happen October 4th and 11th. It may have already been released, whatever the frequency we think is going to happen tomorrow or the 11th. It may have already happened. Okay? So that's why I said this month we will see. Somebody said on my Facebook, could be postponed. What is it? The weather alert system. Could be postponed until October 11th, but it could not be. And would you even know the difference? That's the thing. For all we know, what we think was the aggressive frequency already went out. Okay? And the article that I posted was correct. People have been so reliant on the information about how the V's held so much POISON and GRAPHENEOXIDE, and they're saying it's going to do this and turn you into a zombie apocalypse and do that, la la la. But it's not what's in the V's. That is misinformation. All the V's have is just life, what you already hold inside and what you're already exposed to around your family and friends. But those stories kept getting reinforced by people who didn't understand how everything works together, and that they had to look at their lifestyle, their belief systems, the way they treat disease, what they believe is to be true or not true. And so, yeah, that article is saying that that was misinformation. You know, any kind of frequency that goes out, whether it's something uniform, like a weather alert system, is going to cause a disturbance in the force. To what degree will everybody, fall over dead? No, that's not the point of these types of things. It's not about destroying mankind. You'll see one story where they're like, oh, they're trying to destroy everybody. Not necessarily. Because we've had so many different frequencies come out. And guess who's passed away? Those who already have issues with their immune system, already in hospice. And those who know how to respond to these frequencies will live to see another day. Okay? And so now it's time to look at where you are responsible. And so that article is correct. You cannot believe all those stories that are in the anti-V groups. That was a psychological operation. And so that article was correct. It's not about what's in the V's. It was how you responded to disease for many years. You already hold the offspring inside. Does your body have what it takes to deal with aggressive climate change? That's what it ultimately comes down to. And so the day of reckoning is here. Okay? The day of reckoning is here. We're at the door. And so let me go back and talk about some stuff about infrasound. Okay? And so, give me 1 second. I'm going to go back to yesterday, all the way up to yesterday's Facebook Live. Because yesterday, I feel the heart palpitations right now. I definitely do. And yeah, it's going to be hotter today, a few degrees hotter today than it was yesterday. And so remember when I said higher power equals religion equals spirituality equals law of large numbers? It was always the most popular story, and all of its offshoots is what makes up your religion and spirituality, as well as your conspiracy theories, what's going on right now. If you didn't have a story, you would be just a blob, a gelatinous, unpurposed blob. Every storyline has infrastructure, intention, and outcome. Choose your own adventure. You choose. No one did shit to you. You choose life, whatever the fuck that means, or you choose death, whatever the hell that means. Higher power equals worshiping the most influential story with a very specific outcome, and the offshoot stories have the same outcome. Hyper-sane people are data-driven, see through the storylines, and develop arguments based in physics and chemistry, not the story du jour. Now, you could be hyper-sane, doesn't mean you're going to survive this. Okay? Don't think because you understand what's going on such a level that your body understands how to deal with this on such a level. Because I'll tell you, there are a lot of hyper-sane people out there. And that means very, very data-driven, logical, very logical, which means that there really isn't major emotion around what's going on. They just understand positive and negative, and you have to balance both sides, and sometimes it's necessary to have death, sometimes it's necessary to have life, and everyone has to choose. But just because you know this, doesn't mean that you are biologically going to survive this. You hope you do. You hope you treat whatever feelings you feel in the correct manner, whatever that means, and I hope your body is able to withstand what's going on, okay? And so then you have to realize that, do you really have the body for this system? And so the system will change your internal environment and external environment by the external environment, and then you choose your reactions. You are being given every choice in the world. And so the system threw the ball, and you'll have to choose how to respond to the ball thrown at you. Now you see why I stay away from alchemists, and why I stay away from hospitals and licensed professionals, unless it is completely 100% out of my control. That's why I do not adopt any religion. I develop my own storyline based in science and allegory and physics and chemistry. And if you can't develop your own storyline, you'll take somebody else's, and then somebody else will control your intention and outcome. But you better not blame them because you gave them permission. Okay? And so there are many storylines that says only America is going to go down and everyone else is going to be saved. There's going to be so many storylines that all will be true. You're seeing the Forbes future maps of the world and the climate change and certain places going underwater and continents breaking. That's one storyline that's probably true. And that, America is going to go through its own bullshit. And that will also be true. Armageddon or Marigeddon or whatever. But just because you see one story that doesn't mention your people and your continent doesn't mean that your continent and your people are not going to be affected. Of course they are. Doesn't mean you're home free. It means you got to stay vigilant and don't ever think that you're comfortable wherever you are. Don't ever think that. And so when somebody was saying yesterday, if you are struggling and your people are just sitting there watching you struggle, they are not your people. And I said, yes, they are. Absolutely, they are. They are your people. When I struggle and I find a way, real friends are proud of your accomplishments because you found a way. The magic is in the struggle, not the easy way out. Real friends are proud of your accomplishments because you struggled and did it. And the ones that don't say, hey, good job, are jealous. And they were never your friend. But if they watched you struggle, then they are your friend. Because they didn't get involved and they didn't try to stop you from what you're doing. They let you do what you had to do. Okay? And so the thing is that when I had that issue a couple of years ago, and I'm just like, oh, women should support each other. Blah, blah, blah. No, really, I just wanted to get a response validation. And not everybody will validate you. Believe me, I know this. Unmet expectation equals upset. Don't ever expect people to validate you. Most people will never validate you unless you're buying them something. Then you're buying them validation. Your coworkers and your boss can validate you because you're doing something for them. But your friends will only validate you if you're only doing something for them. And I learned that very quickly. Nothing is for free. When you do something for yourself, you validate yourself. Fake friends try to save you at every turn. Dependency is the new currency. Everything is upside down. That's why it's been so frustrating the last 7 years. I didn't know who my friends were. Some were proud of me, others were not. They are your friends when they watch you struggle. They are your friends when they validate you or when they don't validate you. So everyone really is your friend. Everybody is your friend. But when you save them, you aren't really a friend. And I'm not talking about saving you from drowning. When they try to save you, they are not your friend. Sometimes having no friends can test who you are as a person. Have you ever had a time in your life where no one was there for you and no one was your friend, when you had no family to turn to? That was probably the best time of your life, and the people that weren't around and weren't there for you were the best people you ever had or didn't have. Don't be mad at people who are not there for you. Embrace those who weren't there for you because you saved yourself. And you don't know you could until you did. That's the thing with my J world. I saved myself. And I got rid of everyone that was trying to misdirect me or redirect me or whatever, or resist me. I did this shit myself for myself. Not everybody can do what I've been doing. So I have to remember that. Okay? And so you didn't know until you did. And then people are proud of you. The ones that actually understand who you are. And they want to be around you during the good times. And they deserve to be around you during the good times because they were around you watching you struggle. Because you must be there for yourself during the bad times. You can only really count on yourself, really. And that's not a bad thing. The ultimate human is who can be by themselves. I cherish those times when I had nothing. Even when my husband and I were dirt poor and we were living in West Sacramento, we only had the Mercedes that was a rebuilt. That was a 1980, Iraqi taxi cab when you think about it. And we were just like driving around and drinking Arizona iced tea, and we'd go fishing or go to some stream. And it was just such a simple time. And that was the best time. It was freedom. And we had fun doing simple things like a little bit of fishing and drinking Arizona iced tea and going to the liquor store and buying it. Okay? That's what my husband and I used to do way back when. That's what he did when he was here in Ohio before he met me. Him and his friends would go to the liquor store, buy drinks like Arizona iced tea or some kind of iced tea and drink it. I never really went to the liquor store to buy Arizona iced tea. I used to just go to Starbucks and get my coffee and go do whatever I do. But in his world, to relax and hang out with his friends was to go to the liquor store and get a drink. Not so much beer, but get like iced tea. And then you had so many to choose from. It's such a different world. It really is. But if somebody is validating you without earning it, then if they're gifting you, they're trying to buy you. Remember that. Validate yourself for your own accomplishments. Nothing is free in this world. It's okay to get help once in a while, but never for the same thing over and over again. Make your mistakes, learn your lessons. And so I said I was in hell because yesterday was so hot. Like, so hot. And so then I said, yeah, cold day in hell. And so yesterday when I was laying in my bed watching Breaking Bad, I'm in hell right now. And it's so warm, full of life, and so much intellectual capacity. The gift of life is the gift of hell. Just don't burn up. But now it's time to become aware of who you really are. Or die someday. What somebody else made you to be, right? Because when people die today, right now, people have died last night. People I know, and their mothers are dying or are dead now. They were made to be a certain way, and they died in their programming. They didn't have what it takes for the climate change. And that's kind of what's going on. Is those who are hanging by a thread won't be around when the climate shifts yet again. Hell was never meant to be feared. It was a place where only the strong could survive because even the devil knew when to cool his heels. Sometimes it's a cold day in hell, and sometimes it's a hot day in hell. Okay? And that's why the whole day after tomorrow, when it was showing you that New York was becoming a huge ice glacier. And so 10-4, infrasound, 1/2 hour, died suddenly. They will blame it on the V's. You already see the people who are anti-V posting those symposiums saying how the V's are so poisonous and bad. The playbook is so obvious. Good luck. Get ready. Infrasound, sometimes referred to as a low-frequency sound, describes sound waves with a frequency below the lower limit of human audibility. Hearing becomes gradually less sensitive as the frequency decreases, so for humans to perceive infrasound, the sound pressure must be sufficiently high. What does infrasound do to humans? There is no agreement about the biological activity of infrasound. Reported effects include those on the inner ear, vertigo. See, inner ear? When I hear those inner ear sounds, vertigo, imbalance. I remember feeling some crazy feelings the last few years when the frequency would change. And then even my refrigerator would also go cattywampus. And so reported effects include those on the inner ear, vertigo, imbalance, etc., intolerable sensations, incapacitation, disorientation, nausea, vomiting, and bowel spasms. Oh yeah, bowel spasms. And resonances in your inner organs, such as your heart. People get heart palpitations. All right? Not everybody feels them, or they chalk it up to something else. So that's what I'm saying. Correlation doesn't always equal causation. And so John made an iteration based upon my information the last 7 years. Salt plus water equals electrolytes. It will give the body all the power it needs to stay alive indefinitely, as long as we are prepared to feed the body properly with all food and suffer the pain and regeneration of all the trauma and damage we ever inflicted on ourselves. And then let me add to that, open your top and bottom immune system, like I said in my book, because you have to release the damage, those excessive microbial offspring that have been accumulating ever since day one. And when's that day one? Ever since your genes, your genetic line was developed, and then passing down that damage. And then I'm watching Breaking Bad, and main takeaway of Breaking Bad is scientists rule the world. And my parents are scientists, and they rule the fucking world. Every scientist out there in their capacity, whatever it is, rules somebody's world, and they rule your world. They are in the health and wellness industry. They are in the alchemist industry. They are engineers. They are Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is a huge engineering enclave of massive amount of scientists. So many scientists. And so, a blistering, dangerous heat wave, which one expert calls a death ridge is poised to scorch. Okay? Scorch. A death ridge is building over the central U.S. and will trigger significant problems across much of the country, including an incoming drought emergency in Louisiana. Now, Weather.us meteorologist Ryan Mao referred to the heat as a death ridge that will bring calm winds and bone-dry conditions in addition to extreme heat. A ridge is an area of higher atmospheric pressure, one that prevents clouds and rain from forming. And so then right on time with October 4th and 11th, brace yourself. Now people are like, well, we've had heat before. We've had really hot weather, but we hadn't had all these different, people dying suddenly and cancer rates going up. Well, yes. You have heat, climate change, and then you have infrasound. And then you have all your different patsies. Blame it on the heat, blame it on the V's, blame it on the GMO, blame it on the chemtrails, blame it on those that didn't get a V, blame it on anything you want, because you already have patsies laid out for you the last 20-something years. Blame it on the Democrats, blame it on the Republicans. Yeah, you name it, you have a patsy to blame whatever happens in your family on somebody else. Then I'm going back last night, in the middle of the night, as my body is talking to me during my dreams, I was thinking about the Spanish flu, World War I, and I was thinking about Carl Jung and him developing the hypersane theory, and he was traumatized by all the atrocities, being a World War I doctor and seeing the devastation. And so when you think about when infrasound, which is my theory, is what's behind basically every pandemic in the world, as well as what's going on right now, but I can't prove it, right? When was infrasound discovered? 1883. Okay? Infrasound was first discovered after the destructive eruption of the Krakatoa in Indonesia. Okay, so there was devastation from that. That's what they said. Infrasound can be from machines. It can be from natural disasters or natural reactions or actions, from hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanoes, earthquakes. Okay? And so then you have the Spanish flu. And so, oh shit. And what was going on during even that time? Okay, so somebody could have machines, or that happened, that Krakatoa developed the Spanish flu, or it was machine, you'll never know. And then you think about the Black Plague, the bubonic plague. What was going on during the 1300s? There was also volcanoes and things that were going on. And so that's when I posted the 1918 pandemic and World War I. And the pandemic started by 40-something soldiers in the barracks coming down with the same diseases. And then it started spreading. Now you could say it was like a microbial virus, but I'll tell you, microbial viruses need influential energy to become very aggressive. Because simply just catching, somebody's spit is not going to cause you to go into major, anaphylactic response. It's then the atmosphere that is so conductive and aggressive that made the people who are spitting microbes aggressive and anaphylactic when you think about it. Because anaphylactic would be the right word as far as this atmosphere and infrasound. And so I was thinking about salt to proteins and elements is to infrasound and to a patsy. So you know that like sodium chloride, sodium fluoride, sodium this, sodium that, sodium or salt, when it's matched with another element, then makes that element more aggressive, more influential. And that's why those who have been scared away from sodium fluoride, because you're like, oh, they put fluoride in the water supply, and they're like talking about it as if they were putting massive amounts to the point where it causes an acid reaction or it eats through metal and other things. No, they have enough parts per million not to cause something as acidic as that. But you know how the conspiracy world is. They take things to the nth degree because that was the psychological programming. And so infrasound, which is that low audible sound that's not very detectable to most people, And then people get reactions. And so they already been afraid of the V's, GMO, the 1 cent hamburgers, the chemtrails, the air, the food, the water, everything. When you already have a patsy, those who haven't been V'd. And so when you don't really see a sound because you don't see it, you can barely even feel it or even hear it, and then you're getting a reaction, guess what you're going to blame? Your mom, your dad, your friends, your family, those who didn't get a therapy, those who got a therapy, those who ate the 1 cent hamburger and are shedding everywhere. And so when you think about salted proteins and elements, right? So when you added salt to the J world to my world, it activated your immune system. And so it activated your body to release the demons, and you had to feed it. And so that's the pairing of an activated immune system was my juice on your body that was sluggish. No different than when the infrasound goes off and everyone has a patsy. They have someone to blame. And so then, bubonic plague, catalyst, infrasound, mystery 13th century eruption traced to Lombok, Indonesia. Oh yeah, I wouldn't doubt that would cause a pandemic. And so I said this morning, 3 hours ago. So you have to release the pressure in your head. That's why people get sick and all congested. I've been blowing my nose all night last night, really hard, so that way I don't have anything caught up in my ear, nose, and throat area. And it took me 7 years to condition myself for this. Yesterday I felt the hunger pangs, but it wasn't bad. It's bad. I did finally feed it a bunch of oatmeal. I slept very good even in the afternoon. It's like narcolepsy. Passed out for about half an hour, dead to the world. And woke up like, what the hell? I didn't even know how long I was out for. Probably a good 20 minutes because I was watching a show, Breaking Bad, and then I passed out and I'd wake up with a start and then I'd rewind, go all the way back to what I remember, and it was like 20 minutes later. It was still the same episode. But when I hear myself starting to snore, it's such a weird feeling. I never even before caught myself snoring before I would go to sleep. So yeah, this atmosphere is making you sleep more. Okay, so this morning, I released the demons and I slept in later. It's now 7:30. That was this morning. But I slept in later and then released the demons. I was blowing my nose a whole lot and I was blowing very hard. And then a couple hours later, I have to poop. And yes, all the different consistencies, which let me know the environment was very aggressive yesterday, like taking so much J juice, okay? Because the environment was so hot and the infrasound was so aggressive. It actually cooked half of my poop and it was so hard. But I got it all out because I kept blowing my nose, leveraging the pressure so it can push it out. And so it wouldn't petrify inside my body. That's what's going on. That's what's going to take is when you are sick, don't let that shit fossilize in your body. That's what's going to destroy you. I'm serious, especially in this environment. And don't be doing laxatives or too much of my J juice because you'll cure yourself. Because already we're in an ionic environment. My J juice is very ionic. You have to literally drink a lot of milk, blow your nose, and get the poop out. And sometimes you have to pull it out. And I know I'm being very graphic, but now we're going into some really fucked up times and I feel it. I see it. I've been experiencing it. I even dream about it. I had a dream that I was in an apartment where they did put a bunch of chain link fence behind my apartment and I couldn't get to the lake and I had to share a bathroom with somebody. And so they blocked off the back with a bunch of chain link fence. And if you had to go to the restroom and your bathroom was taken up by another person, you had a long way to walk to the lake bathrooms. And so, people are like, well, we don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow or the 11th. And so that's where the system has kept people kind of uneasy and not fully understanding what's going on or think that nothing's going to happen tomorrow or it's already happened. So I predict tomorrow, no matter what, it's going to be very unprecedented. It would be tomorrow or the 11th or already right now, right? It's not going to be pretty. It'll be like inaudible fireworks. The J world, who can hear the tones, in my opinion, you'll hear different tones, but it might be just one long tone that will disappear, but you'll feel the pain potentially sooner than later. The last couple of days I heard tones, pretty aggressive ones, and then a couple hours later it was a hunger, fatigue, even hives, and then hunger. I wouldn't be traveling tomorrow if at all possible. If you're lucky enough to be sick, stay at home. Everything will happen. Everything will be happening after 2:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rush hour traffic is going to be insane. Planes, trains, automobiles, whatever. But it may have already happened, or it may happen even more so. See, you don't know for sure, but you see your friends and family diagnosed left and right. COVID hospitalizations are rising in all the different states. Okay? My husband, he says, I mean, I'm telling you, my husband feels a little bit better. And he says he's probably going to be out there tomorrow on the truck. Okay. He's a warrior. He'll figure it out. He will survive. I'm counting on. And so I said tomorrow will be the biggest weather alert ever the Western world has ever seen. Let you know climate change is happening. And you will blame it on whatever you want. In my opinion, it will be difficult to be in denial. Even my hands were hurting holding my phone yesterday. Okay? People are getting reactions. You can blame it on whatever you want. But then the day after tomorrow, one side is hot, one side is frozen. And then Klaus Schwab. Now remember, a couple of years ago, before I got my last book out, which is this, okay, I had to change my introduction and change my thesis probably 1 billion times. The lady that was helping me edit my stuff, she was like, okay, what is it? Is this a new book, a new introduction? What are you doing? Because at first I was writing about Klaus Schwab, the leader of the New World Order type of thing. And I was going to be heavily into the conspiracy world and blame everything on him. And okay, I get it, but I didn't go that direction. I wasn't going to lay everything on him. But I know what his people and the collective are trying to do. Okay? We are going to be leveling the playing field. Some people were given gifts of extreme intelligence because of the blood types and then the programming based upon their area. So if you had a type A, type B blood type, and you were around relative wealth and access to education, you could be so good at physics and math and English and all the different subject matters that people gravitate towards to make a lot of money. And so some people did not have access to that. And so they couldn't compete with those who were type A, type B, blood type A and B, living in higher echelon areas. And so they couldn't compete. They were stuck around drugs and alcohol and prostitution and other things. And so now the system is going to level the playing field. Those who are in Silicon Valley will be subject to frequencies based upon their lifestyle and their belief system, and you hope they survive. Other people in poor areas will survive the frequencies because they're strong. They have the meat, the milk, the cheese. They were Appalachian. They could release the demons and they didn't die from that. They were type O. They were strong and they could take on information. They didn't have to be so intellectually capable off the bat. They had the ability to learn. And so what is Klaus Schwab saying now? What's expected of businesses is that they are accepting a level playing field in competition, striving for improvement in working conditions and employees' well-being, supporting the communities in which the company is active, looking after the environment and the long-term sustainability of their business, and paying one's fair share of taxes. And so that is what we're going into. We're heading into stakeholder capitalism, Klaus Schwab, a global economy that works for progress, people, and planet. And so I wrote about that, about competing on a level playing field. And what does that mean? Well, it means that everyone's going to be knocked down to size. Those that are all the way up here are going to be knocked down to here. Those who are down here are going to come up here. And everyone's going to compete on a level playing field. However, how do you get people to do that? Well, you got to have a frequency that is level, that will level the playing field. And so tomorrow or 11th, the playing field will be leveled on some level, if it isn't already. And so then read the comments about from the VACCINE mandates community on Reddit. Okay, people are saying, oh, now they're saying that the V's are poison. They're not poison. Not everybody can handle them. Okay, based upon their lifestyle and predisposed issues and the way they respond to pain and suffering. And so one half the population had trouble with them, and they can make, on some level, correlation equals causation. And the other half of the population had no reaction. It was as if it was nothing. If they had a reaction, it would be like a cold. So they're like, okay, I don't understand what you're talking about. And so I said, read the comments. They aren't wrong. Some people can handle them, and others cannot. Tomorrow, when the atmosphere changes, or October 11th, whichever, you'll have your patsy. People already have their patsy. And so this morning, I was so hungry. And I was like so hungry like I was on Sunday or Saturday. I made the hamburger. I made so much food because I was hungry for like protein. And when you have climate change is so aggressive that's causing cell replication and offspring. Those offspring need the protein. When I was starving as a baby, my mother would protein load me. She gave me the Gerber high protein cereal, and I had to sit there and eat it, even though I was like, ugh, I don't like it, but I had to. I was starving. That's what happens when you have orphan babies from Vietnam who are starving. You have to protein load them, okay? And so what am I doing today, this morning? I was protein loading. I was protein loading Saturday or Sunday. And I knew my husband needed to be fed like massive amounts of protein because he needs it. And so I said, feed the microbial children, potato latkes, cheeseburger, eggs, and pork chops. I mean, protein load like crazy. Okay, and that's what I'm saying. Appalachian people are going to be kicking everyone's butt when it comes to surviving this because they have the body for it. They have the food for it. They have the background, the culture. And so John said it could be postponed till October 11th. Yeah, that could be, but it could not be. And would you even know? For all we know, aggressive frequencies already went out. And this article is correct. It's not about what's in the V's. It was how you responded to diseases for many years. You already hold the damage and the offspring inside. And sometimes your damage and offspring are sometimes your children, okay, that have their own issues. Does your body have what it takes to deal with aggressive climate change? That's what it ultimately comes down to. The day of reckoning is here. And so, so that's kind of where we're at. Something can happen at 2:20 and the weather alert doesn't go out. Like, oh, we're home free. Not necessarily. Let's say they canceled the weather alert. Let's just say that. Everyone thinks, okay, we're home free. Everything's great. No frequencies. They could still send the frequency out. And then they do the weather alert on October 11th, not the 4th. People won't know what, and then they'll blame it on, and you know how that works. So no matter what, expect any frequency today, tomorrow, the next day. Doesn't even have to be tomorrow. But they are saying it, that we're going to have a massive nationwide, all cell phones will be under a type of weather alert for half an hour and a minute. A minute for their sound, half an hour for whatever message. May the odds ever be in your favor. Bye.